I'm so excited. Here we are in Fairfax. We are in the shadow of the Pentagon, also the shadow of the big five military contractors. And you know, it's something worth thinking about for a minute. So I know there are a lot of really good people who work at the Department of Defense, really good people who work for our defense contractors. But here's the problem. Too many of our defense contractors, they don't just want a seat at the table. They want to own the table. And that's a problem. So right now, they have built this great revolving door between the Department of Defense and the big contractors. And they want that revolving door to keep spinning. Why? Because it helps them with their profits. And the latest on that is Patrick Shanahan. So here's a guy, now think about this, who has absolutely zero military experience, absolutely zero foreign policy experience, absolutely zero experience in government. What does he have experience in? Improving the profitability of Boeing. And Donald Trump has nominated him to be the Secretary of Defense. Well, my view on this is nobody in America should be in a position of wondering when the Secretary of Defense makes a decision, whether that's a decision to improve the safety and security of the people of the United States or a decision to improve the profitability of Boeing. So I think we should reject his nomination. And instead, how about we pass some basic rules of ethics for the Department of Defense? Number one, let's block the revolving door. Close it. I agree. Number two, no executives in the Department of Defense should be able to trade in defense contractor stocks. Number three, nobody in the intelligence community should be able to go to work for a foreign government. Ban this. And four, how about just a little transparency in this area? The big five defense contractors want to lobby, then let's make it public. Say who you lobbied and what you're saying to them. Now look, I have three brothers. They all served in the military. And I know the kind of sacrifice that the military make, that their families make. I just want to be able to say to them as an American, I guarantee that when a decision is made at the Department of Defense, it's not a decision to enhance the profitability of a major contractor. It is a decision to protect the safety and security of the United States of America. So I wanted to tell you about that because we have our budget negotiations coming up next week and our ongoing work in armed services. But I thought what I'd do today, and I've got some new proposals on that, I thought what I'd do today, okay. Yeah, I got a plan for that. Oh man, as natural as breathing. Okay. So I thought what we'd do today, I'd tell you a little bit about myself, tell you a little bit about why I'm in this fight. We'll take a few questions, and then if anybody wants to, we can stay and do selfies. So I grew up out in Oklahoma. Do we have any Okies? We got a few. Okay. We got some Okies here. I grew up out in Oklahoma. As I said, I have three older brothers. They all went off and joined the military. My oldest brother, Don Reed, he was career military. He spent about 5.5 years in combat in Vietnam. We were very lucky to get him back home. My second brother, John, was stationed overseas for a little over a year. Now, my third brother, David, he trained as a combat medic. And to this day, we have a rule in our family: never choke in front of David. Yeah, he's in his 70s. He carries a sharpened pocket knife and is convinced he could do an emergency tracheotomy. Always ready. Makes for some exciting times at Thanksgiving. Somebody goes, and we all just back out of the room. I love my brothers. I'm close to my brothers. They're all back in Oklahoma now. When we were growing up, our daddy had a lot of different jobs. He sold paint, he sold carpeting, he sold fencing. And by the time I was in middle school, all three of the boys, they were gone. I was what used to be called the late in life baby. Let's hear for late in life babies. My mother always just called me the surprise. But it was just my mother and my daddy and me when my daddy had a massive heart attack. And we thought he was going to die, that we were going to lose him. He was in the hospital for a long time. He pulled through, but he couldn't go back to work. And at nights, my mama would tuck me in, and then I'd hear them talk after they thought I'd gone to sleep. And that's where I learned words like mortgage and foreclosure. I remember the day we lost our family station wagon. And one day I walked into my folks' bedroom, and out on the bed was the dress. Now, some of you in this area will know the dress. It is the one that only comes out for weddings, funerals, and graduations. You know that dress. And so she had it laid out. She's there in her slip, her stocking feet, and she's pacing and crying. And she's saying, "We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house. We will not lose this house." She was 50 years old. She had never worked outside the home, and she was truly terrified. And she cried for a long time. Finally, she looks over at me. I'm just standing there. And she looks at that dress, and she looks back at me. She wipes her face. She pulls that dress on, puts on her high heels, and walks to the Sears and gets a minimum wage full-time job answering phones. That minimum wage job saved our house, and it saved our family. And for many years, I thought that was just the story that my mother had taught to me, that no matter how scared you are, no matter how hard it looks, when it comes down to it, you reach down deep, you find what you have to find, you pull it up, and you do what you have to do to take care of the people you love. It was years later that I came to understand that's not just the story that my mama taught me. This is the story of millions of people all across this country who, no matter how scary it is, no matter how hard it is, when it comes down to it, they reach down deep, they find what they need to find, they pull it up, and they take care of the people they love. It was only years after that that I came to understand it's also a story about government. Because when I was a girl, a full-time minimum wage job in America would support a family of 3. It would put food on the table, pay the utilities, and cover a mortgage. Today, a full-time minimum wage job in America will not keep a mama and a baby out of poverty. That is wrong, and that is why I am in this fight. And understand this, the difference is not an accident. The difference is because of decisions made in Washington, D.C. Because when I was a girl, you can go back and read it. the question that Congress asked when they set the minimum wage was, what does it take a family of 3 to survive? What does it take a family of 3 to just get a toehold, to be able to get a start, to have a place from which they can build something secure? Today, the question asked in Washington on the minimum wage is, what will improve the profitability of giant multinational corporations? Well, I don't want a government that just works for giant multinationals. I want one that works for our families. You bet. So, understand this. I've known what I wanted to do since I was in 2nd grade. Yeah, okay, a couple of you laugh. I know you didn't decide till 3rd grade. 4th grade back there. Okay. Not me, man. I've always known since 2nd grade. I wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for our public? So, I want you to know, and I made the commitment early. I used to line my dollies up and teach them. I was tough but fair. But the thing is, my 3 brothers, they got their toehold in America's middle class by going to the military. Me, I needed a 4-year diploma. You don't get to be a teacher without a college diploma. And by the time I graduated from high school, we didn't have the money for a college application, much less to send me off to 4 years of college. So, unlike a lot of Americans, I do not have a straight path. I've kind of had to do a little here and there. So here's how my story goes. I got a scholarship to college. Yay! And then at 19, I fell in love. Yay! And married. Yay! The first husband. And dropped out of school and got a full-time job answering phones. Now, it was going to be a good life. I knew that, and it was one I chose. But it wasn't the dream. And then I found it. A commuter college about 45 minutes away that cost $50 a semester. Yeah, that was my big chance. And I hung on for dear life. I finished my degree. I became a special needs teacher. I have lived my dream. Now, we got any special needs teachers here tonight? Whoa, we got some. Good. Good. Got another one here. So I think you'll back me up on this. Special needs teachers, this is not a job, it's a calling. Now, I probably would have stayed in that job forever. I loved it. I would have done that work. I can still tell you stories from it. But by the end of the first year, I was visibly pregnant. And the principal did what principals did back in the day. Wished me luck, showed me the door, and hired someone else for the job. So there I am. I'm at home, I got a baby, can't get a job, can't figure out what to do, and I make this crazy decision to head off to law school. Yay! Found a public law school that cost $450 a semester. I know, prices are going up, but, I'm in. Baby on hip, head off, do 3 years of law school, and graduate visibly pregnant. You'll detect a pattern here. Practice law for 45 minutes, and then went back to my first love, which is teaching. So I taught in law school. I traded short ones for tall ones, and taught everything about money. That's what I've worked on. It's money. I taught contract law and commercial law and corporate finance and economics and bankruptcy and all of the pieces around money. And there's been one central question that I've worked on pretty much all my life, and that is, what's happening to working families in this country? Why is America's middle class being hollowed out? Why is it that for people who work every bit as hard as my mother worked, that the path has become so much rockier and so much steeper, and for people of color, even rockier and even steeper? Why? And the answer is like the answer on minimum wage. It's who this government works for. Understand, right now in Washington, this government works fabulously, terrific for giant drug companies, just not for people trying to get a prescription filled. Yeah. It works great for big financial institutions, just not for people who are trying to make it paycheck to paycheck without getting ripped off. It works terrifically for giant oil companies that want to drill everywhere, just not for people who see climate change bearing down upon us. So when you've got a government that works great for those with money and isn't working for anyone else, that is corruption, pure and simple, and we need to call it out for what it is. And understand this, corruption, the influence of money, touches every decision that gets made in Washington. Whatever issue brought you here today, I guarantee if there's a decision to be made in Washington, it's been touched, pushed, massaged, tilted over just a little so the folks with money do better than everyone else. Let me give you an example around that. You go back to the 90s, and you're starting to see the description in the science, in the public discussion about climate, about a warming Earth, about weather systems that are starting to get more and more extreme. And here's the thing. At that point, Republicans and Democrats are working together. Now, they don't have the science all right yet. They don't have but they're saying the right things together. And they're talking about what do we need to change, because they see it as nobody wants to see a catastrophe hit this earth. So they're working on it. And then along come the Koch brothers. Oh, you've heard of them. The Koch brothers, yeah. A few oil companies, some big polluters. And you know what they basically say? They say, wow, if Congress gets serious about this climate thing, if they really, start trying to clean up the air, clean up the water, that could affect our bottom line. That could hurt our business model here. So what do? They think about investments. Well, they could invest in carbon capture. They're going to invent all the great machines and the things that are going to pull carbon out of the air and clean up our air, clean up our... Nah. They could say, we're just going to make the switch. We're going to move away from carbon-based fuels and go to renewables and clean energy immediately. We're just going to shut this stuff down and move over there. Nah. They invested, and I mean really invested. They invested in politicians. They invested in Washington. And I'll tell you exactly how they did it. One of the main areas, they got the bought and paid for experts to come in and talk about, I don't know about this science thing, the dinosaurs loved it. It was just to raise doubt. Now, why would you do that? It's not because they have any doubt. They know what the science is. It's because if you can just raise doubt, you build an umbrella so that the politicians can continue to take Koch brother money, oil company money, and do absolutely nothing. If you want to understand the climate crisis we're in now, it's 25 years of corruption in Washington. And here's the deal. We got to make change. We got to make it in this country. But the kind of change we have to make, it's not nibbles around the edge. It's not, oh, I know, we'll fix this one thing over here, and we'll clean up that one thing over there, and we'll change a couple of regulations over here. No. If we want to make change, we have to make big, systemic change in this country. Yep. And I got a plan for that. Okay, part one, attack corruption head on. Head on. Stop the revolving door between Wall Street and Washington. The revolving door between our defense industry and our Department of Defense. Stop the revolving door. And here's another one. Say that no more lobbying. We've got to end lobbying as we know it. It's killing us. We got to change this. Oh, I want to do one around the Supreme Court. It's a big bill that I've got. I know you're not surprised by that. But it is. I mean, look, here's the good news. I have the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. Here's the bad news. We need the biggest anti-corruption plan since Watergate. Now, I could talk about all the parts, but I'm just going to do one more. Anybody who wants to run for federal office, make them put their tax returns online. That'll go a long way. Yeah. Yeah, I love you too. All right, so one, attack corruption head on. Two, we got to restructure a couple of core parts of our economy. And here's where the first one starts. We've had enormous concentration among corporations. They've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And here's part of the problem. They get so big, they just roll wherever they want to roll. They roll, they roll, spoiler. They roll over their own employees. They roll over their own customers. They roll over the communities where they are. So let's think right now about structural change. Here's a way to get some pushback. We need more power in the hands of employees, and that means make it easier to join a union and give unions more power in the fight. Yep. That's structural change. Let me give you another one for structural change. Pass a wealth tax. All right, so here's my proposal for a wealth tax. By the way, anybody in here own a home? You've been paying a wealth tax for years. It's just called a property tax. Yes, and I'm saying let's include, it's your biggest asset, right, a home. How about for the top 0.1%, everybody who's got more than $50 million, okay, for everybody there, let's include in your property tax the diamonds, the yachts, and the Rembrandts. That's all I'm saying, right? Yeah. And I just want everybody to understand, this is not a point of trying to be punitive. The idea behind it is to say, look, you built one of the great fortunes in this country. This is the top 0.1%. It's about 75,000 families. You built one of the great fortunes. Good for you. Good. Well, or you inherited it. I mean, but... Okay. Either way, good for you. But here's the deal. I guarantee when that fortune was built, it was built at least in part using workers all of us help pay to educate. I guarantee. It was built at least in part getting your goods to market on roads and bridges all of us help pay to build. It was built at least in part protected by police and firefighters all of us helped to put out there in the field. So we're just saying to you, you got one of the big fortunes, you built one of the big fortunes, that's great, good for you. But pitch in 2 cents so everybody else gets a chance to build something real. That's all it is. Okay, and I got to stick in one more fact on this about fairness here, just so everybody knows this. The top 1% last year, all in, all the taxes they paid about 3.2% of their total wealth. The 99, which might include some of you, paid about 7.2% of your total wealth. I'm tired of freeloading billionaires. Let's just level the playing field. Just a little. Just a little. So, here's the deal. 2 cents. 2 cents, that's all I want. On your 50 millionth and first dollar, 2 cents pitched in and 2 cents on the rest of the dollars. I want you to know what we could do with 2 cents in America. With 2 cents, we could provide universal child care for every one of our babies age 0 to 5. Plus, universal pre-K for every 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and 4-year-old in this country. Plus, raise the wages for every child care worker and preschool teacher to a professional level that they deserve. Plus, yes, plus, if you act now, 12 free steak knives. No, plus, technical school, 2-year college, 4-year public college, all fee-free and tuition-free for all of our kids. Yep. And I'm still not through. One more, plus all of this, plus student loan debt cancellation for 95% of people who have it. Think about that. Restructure this economy, a little fairness, just level the playing field. So that's part 2. Part 3, we got to change the rules to protect our democracy. I want to see a constitutional amendment to protect the right of every American citizen to vote and to get that vote counted. Yep. Roll back every one of these gerrymanders and voter suppression laws across this country. One more. Overturn Citizens United. Democracy is not for sale. So there it is. It's just 3 things. Just 3 things. 3 structural changes. We got to fight back against the corruption. We got to rewrite just a couple of the basic rules in how our economy works. And we got to protect our democracy. And understand, for me, these 3 things are related to each other. They are all about opportunity. Opportunity not just for those at the top, opportunity not just for those born into privilege, but opportunity for all of us. Opportunity to get a good education from the very beginning. Opportunity to be able to get a good job, to start a business. Opportunity to start a family, to buy a house. Opportunity. Remember, I'm a special needs teacher. Opportunity may mean a chance to live independently. Opportunity. I'm in this fight for opportunity because of what it meant to me. You know, my daddy, he ended up as a janitor. But his baby daughter, she got a chance to be a public school teacher, to be a college professor, to be a United States Senator, and to be a candidate for President of the United States. Dream big, fight hard, and let's win! Thank you, I love
All right, are you ready? We're going to ask just 3 questions. So I'm going to call 3 numbers, and those with a microphone, can you please show them where one is over there by the platform, and this second one is right here. So if you're in one of those areas, please make your way.
Okay.
Can I ask you to do the honors?
No, I'm not touching it. Otherwise, I pull
She's a smart woman.
No. This one's
okay.
all on you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay. This one was together, so I'll take this one. The last 4, 1779. 1779. So look at your blue ticket.
We have a winner.
Come make your way up, sir. The next one, 1676.
That's good.
1676. Raise your hand and say persist if you have 1676. Okay, right behind you.
We have it?
Right there. Persist.
Great. Persist. Okay.
So the next one, say persist if I call your number. So this is a large crowd. Okay, here's the last one. 1767. Persist, anyone? 1767?
Anybody got it?
Where's the persister?
Do we have one? 1767? We got it?
Do we got
Found
it? We found it. Okay, back there.
Come on up.
Wonderful.
All righty. Thank you, Hala. Okay, let's do this.
Let's do this.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi. Hi, nice to meet you. What's your name?
Brendan Martin.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi, Senator Warren.
Hi. Oh, you can call me Elizabeth.
I'll call you Lizzie.
All righty.
I think my question is probably one a lot of people are asking in this Democratic primary season. You're for Medicare for all, correct?
Yes.
Can you argue the virtue of that over a more cautious and arguably more realistic goal of Medicare for starting at age 55 or kiddie care?
Oh, I don't think, let me just start by saying, I don't think these are inconsistent. I think there are a lot of pathways into it, but let's do it this way. Let's start with healthcare is a basic human right, and we fight for basic human rights. The goal is that we as Democrats, what are we looking for? We're looking for a way to get everybody covered at the lowest possible cost. And the data back up the best way to do that is through Medicare for all. Now, there are multiple pathways into it. Some say we start by lowering the age. Some say we raise the age. We let major employers buy in. It's going to take bringing some folks to the table on this. We need our unions to be represented in this. It's very important. But I want to make a core point, if I can, on this, since I'm here among Democrats, and I think this is not all, entirely. I hope we have some non-Democrats here. Democrats to be, I like to call them. Future Democrats. But here's something else I want to talk about in this. I want to go back. It's been a little shy of 2 years ago when the Republicans in the House voted to repeal health care for tens of millions of Americans. Some of you may have watched that on television. I did. I watched when they voted. And here's the thing. After they voted, they high-fived each other. Who high-fives somebody over taking away health care from tens of millions of Americans? But here's part of the deal in that. They wanted to roll back the Affordable Care Act. And I just have to say, I think one of the principal reasons was because President Obama had been in favor of it, then they got to be against it, right? I was part of it. But much of what got lost in that discussion about health care was not only did they want to roll back the Affordable Care Act, they wanted to take a big bite out of Medicaid. And this is something, as Democrats, been there for a long time now, Medicaid, we've never much defended. You know, Medicaid for a lot of people is about someone else. It's not about us, it's about somebody else. I just want to remind everybody here, Medicaid, 2 out of every 3 seniors living in a nursing home is counting on Medicaid to pay the bill. Anybody here know someone that has been caught in the grip of mental illness? There you go. Or addiction? There you go. The odds are very good that whatever medical care they're able to get is through Medicaid, because that's the principal provider. And anybody know a family who had a baby that ran up $1 million in the first month in medical bills? Yeah, there you go, right? Even if the parents had the gold-plated insurance, it's Medicaid that steps in and does the breathing equipment and the fancy feeding equipment and the speech therapist and the occupational therapist, all the things that help this baby have a chance to make it in this world. So here's how I see this when we talk about healthcare generally. The way I like to understand this is we live in an America where we don't know whose grandma is going to outlive her savings. We don't know whose beloved brother or aunt or cousin is going to get caught in the grips of mental illness or addiction. And we don't know whose beloved niece is going to have the baby that runs up $1 million in medical bills in the first month. But here's what we do know. As part of the human family, we will all pitch in now. So if it happens to your family or your family or your family, we're going to be there for each other. And that's how I feel about every part of this. So we got to do this. Thank you. Yep. We got to do it. Okay, who we got? Who else have we got here? We got one? Hi, what's your name? Hi, Chris. Hold the mic up. They can't all hear
Sorry,
you.
I'm not.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah, sorry, I'm Chris.
Hi, Chris.
My question is, so we know over the past few decades, public trust in the government has been dwindling.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that.
What would a Warren administration do to re-earn that trust? And how would the agencies and departments be better advocates for the public?
Oh, that's a good question, Chris. I like that. Good question. Okay. It's the first time I've actually been asked that question, framed that way. So let me start with, a lot of people don't trust the government to work for them, and that's because the government doesn't work for them. Now, I'm just serious on this, and the time has come. We got to call this out. It isn't working. Yeah, it works great for those who have money. It works great for those who can hire armies of lobbyists, and great for those who can do bought and paid for experts and think tanks, but it's not working for the rest of America. So here's my proposal exactly on, I do have a plan for that. Here's how I think we go about it. Number one is we really have to call out the corruption. You know, I talk about this all around the country now, corruption. And people nod. They get it. And this isn't even very partisan. Democrats and Republicans, when you're outside Washington, they get this, that the government is working for those who come and lobby it and grease the wheels and make campaign contributions. That's who it's working for, and we need to make it work for everyone else. So that's the start. Let's pass my anti-corruption plan. Okay, that's part one. Yeah. Part two, here's how I see this. The proposal for the wealth tax, I'm just going to pick a part of this. My 2-cent wealth tax on the top 0.1% of the fortunes in this country. If we use just a piece of that money to forgive student loan debt for about 95% of those who have student loan debt, that has huge support among Democrats, independents, and Republicans. Now, here's my point on that one. we come in January of 2021, and we actually make that change, I think a whole lot of people have a lot more faith that government can work for the people. So I'm convinced. And now I'm just going to make one more pitch on that, just one more pitch, because we're here together right now. We're in a Democratic primary. This is Democrats against Democrats. And you have the opportunity to say to every Democrat who wants to earn your vote, where are you getting your money? Who are you spending your time with? Because if we really want to rebuild faith in government, we need to walk the walk every day. So thank you, Chris. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We got somebody? Hi.
My name is Priscilla. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and my question for you is, do you have any plans on improving...
So I'm sorry, you said you're a veteran?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. It's good to see you. Crystal, is that right?
Priscilla.
Priscilla. And what branch did you serve in?
I served 9 years in the Marine Corps.
In the Marines. All right. Good to see you, Priscilla. I'm glad you're here, and thank you. Okay.
So my question is, do you have any plans on improving healthcare through the Veterans Affairs Department, and not just for OIF and OEF, but all the way back to Vietnam?
Yes. So thank you, Crystal. I'm sorry, Priscilla. I just changed your name. Sorry about that. Thank you, Priscilla. This one is really personal for me, and I've said I have 3 brothers, all of whom are vets, and one, of course, is a Vietnam vet. And I hear on a pretty regular basis what it's like to deal with the VA, what it means to try to get your health care through the VA. And yet, in my family, nobody wants us to get rid of it. They just want to make it work, that's where they are. And I'm going to give you what I think are 2 pieces that we got to do. I see this as a moral question. People who join the military say, I'll put my life on the line, and I will disrupt my family in order to keep the rest of America safe. So I see this as a two-way street, and that means the rest of America says to everyone who makes that promise, we will honor all of our promises to you, and that includes a promise for first-rate health care for the rest of your life. That is our obligation. 2 parts. You can't do this if you won't spend the money, and you can't do it if you won't put the muscle behind making the changes in the VA that we need to make. I promise you, as President of the United States, I will fight to get the money into the VA and to get the kind of muscle that says we are going to deliver for all of our vets. Thank you. It's a good question. Thank you. Thank you. So, there are a million things we could talk about. I have a plan for that. But what I want to do is make sure that we have enough time to be able to take pictures. Yes, we should talk about guns. I believe in gun safety. You're right. I just want to say how glad I am to see our moms in their red T-shirts here. Go moms, because this is a safety issue. 7 children and teenagers will die today from gun violence. And most of the time it won't make a headline. Some will be in mass shootings, and that will get people's attention. Most of it will be on sidewalks and playgrounds and at a friend's house. If 7 of our children were dying from some mysterious virus, we would pull out all the stops to make sure we understood it and put a stop to it. But right now, the NRA holds Congress hostage, and we need to fight back. This is a moral imperative on behalf of our children. So we got a lot that we can do in terms of better background checks. getting rid of bump stocks. Weapons of war do not belong on our streets. And I want to put a pitch in basic research on what works and what doesn't. We got to do this. But I see moms on guns. I see people who talk about, who come in to lobby on health care, people who come in to talk about immigration, people who come in to talk about the issues that touch their lives. This is how democracy is supposed to work. We are supposed to have the power. We, the people. You know, I want to tell you, so I've been doing this now for a long time, it feels like, since 1st of January. And first time I got up, I talked about corruption and the changes I wanted to make. I talked about core changes in our economy, just structural changes. I talked about protecting our democracy. And then I went back to Congress, and I had people come up to me and say, I listened to your speech, I read about your speech. It's too hard what you're asking for. It's too much. There's too much power on the other side. This isn't going to happen. Don't ask for ask for something narrower, smaller. Smile more. And the first time I heard that, you know what I thought? I thought, what do you think they said to the abolitionists? Too hard. Man, are you kidding? No, that's not going to happen. What did they say to the suffragettes? Just too hard. Give up now. What did they say to the early union organizers? Oh, no. Give up now. Just too hard. What did they say to the foot soldiers in the civil rights movement? Too hard. Give up now. What did they say to the LGBTQ plus activists who wanted equal marriage? Whoa, that's not going to happen. Too hard, give up now. But none of them gave up. None of them. They organized. They built a grassroots movement. They persisted. And they changed the course of American history. Dream big.